Singhal caught up with none other than Samir Arora on the sidelines of that very entertaining Traders Carnival all the way in Bangkok. But he has some interesting things to say about the Indian markets. Take a look.
Well, yes, in Bangkok for Traders Carnival, and look who I've got. Samir Arora just flew down from Singapore, in fact, just out of immigration and straight here. Samir, thanks a lot for always being Channel's good friend. What brings you to Traders Carnival? You are an investor.
I have to come and teach them why not to trade. And next time call it an investors carnival. So my topic is why not to trade too much.
Why not to trade too much. But since we are talking about Traders Carnival and we are talking about trading, it's been a very interesting market for last 2 weeks or so. One day up, one day down. Professional traders delight, a novice nightmare. How do you see things unraveling for us here? 8,000 has been a bit of a resistance. I'm sure you look at some of these aspects. Going forward, what do you think?
Actually, I don't look at these, but in general, I would think that times are uncertain in the world more than in India. In India, now we have this new uncertainty about how we deal with these treaties and all, because although today there has been not much of impact, but as it becomes closer to March of 2017, I think there'll be many issues. But let's keep that aside, because maybe by that time there'll be clarifications and people will be going to the government and asking for things, and then they'll realize it's much more complicated than just trying to tax somebody. But in general, I am and was more bullish in recent months, because I am betting, like everybody else, that monsoons will come and make a big difference to an average Indian life.
Just one more question on this Mauritius treaty issue. Since on that day we spoke on phone, I remember you tweeted in reply to my tweet that everything in life is not about that day. Do you still think that it's an overhang which is going to remain, which is going to become big as we move closer towards 2017? And do you think that the government will have a bit of a rethink on that?
No, there'll be many questions and they have to resolve. The biggest question is that we are currently in a situation where the government wants to avoid, say, 10-15% traders or investors not paying taxes in any jurisdiction. But now I fear a situation where you may have to pay taxes in 2 jurisdictions, because when an investor, ultimate investor in a fund, pays taxes, but in India the taxable entity is not that individual but the fund. So how will the government of India give, say, tax certificates to an underlying investors whose names also they don't know, because the taxable entities in India is not those individuals but the fund in which they have invested. And it can't be a situation where they pay taxes in India, nobody gives them any TDS kind of a thing or tax, and then in their own jurisdiction they go and again pay taxes. This is a very mega thing, because I don't think this was the intention of the government to have people pay 2 levels of taxes without a set-off.
Okay,
and it's a big...
and I believe that there will be some consultation on that.
But I think this is... Actually, theoretically, I think it's impossible to do, so let's see what solutions they find.
Okay, let's get back to the market. You said you are now bullish because you believe that monsoon, or you hope, and you have been bullish. So in your fund, is it the highest net long that you have been in some time?
Highest net long was
in
when Mr. Modi was coming to power in May 2014.
That's 2 years back.
Yeah, that was like 80-90%. Now we are around 68% net. Okay. Because right now also I feel that there are some sectors which are really not going to recover. So we are as excited about the shorts as we are about the longs in recent days and months.
Let me make an educated guess. Would the shorts be in PSU Bank?
No. Because if they were, I would not be tweeting on them. So from that you can imagine that I am not short on them, but obviously I don't have them on the long side. Okay. But in general, there are a few financials which may not be PSU banks, but they could be near PSU banks, as you may imagine. And then there are many other sectors, telecom, gold, many other things are there.
Okay, I think our viewers would know what stocks you're talking about when you say private sector banks, which are now being considered at par with some of the PSU banks. Samir, this is one question that I've always wanted to ask you. Something like an HDFC Bank, which has created so much wealth for you, which has been one of your best investments. Has it saturated now? Did you see over the last 1 or 2 years it's not given anything?
No, it gives. Even this year it's up 4-5%, while the market is down 1 or 2%. Yeah. Basically, it beats the market every year. Yeah. Remember that in 2013 end, it reached foreign ownership limit. Before that, foreigners used to have in the index, MSCI India index, it was 7.5% of the index. So if India was getting $14-15 billion a year, $1 billion was in theory going into just one stock.
Yes.
Since that reached the foreign ownership limit, the stock has actually not fallen, has outperformed the market, and in addition, foreign investors who kept holding it have got a 20% premium, because the FI lot is at a 20% premium.
Yes.
So if you look at it over the last 3 years, we have made whatever it has made in India, which is better than nearly every other stock in a big picture sense, plus a 20% gain on the premium that it has picked up. Okay. So, in fact, it is one of the safest stocks because if foreigners were to sell someday, they have to first shrink that premium down to zero. So for an Indian investor, there is a 20% buffer against a foreigner selling that stock. Because he will first sell at 20% premium, then maybe 19, 18, 17 has to go to par, and then he will, in theory, hit the local stock price.
So you are still bullish on this?
Yeah, very bullish. Number one, no ownership.
Okay, what else are you bullish on right now? And your longs,
Our
which
biggest
are the
longs
biggest?
are in financials and NBFCs. And I think basically, in NBFCs, the story is very simple. If the company has money, its debtors never default because they know that if they repay, he will give it back. Yes. So in all these new IPOs, you know that they are lending very small amounts to the poor rural Indians at 9,000 and 10,000 rupees is the loan average. That person also knows that if I pay back this 9,000, these guys will give me 12,000. So as long as this fellow has the money to give, his NPAs will never come because that guy will always pay him back. And this story will go on for a number of years, and then one day, maybe 4 or 5 years later, you'll realize that the rural Indian has been given too much debt or too much credit, and that these guys are not getting funded. But for the moment, the cycle is so, virtuous that I think you can underwrite a 20-30% growth per annum, per quarter, every quarter over the previous year for like 4 or 5 years. So I don't think anybody will be able to stop their re-rating.
Okay, I know you have to rush for your presentation, but just a couple of last questions. It's been a bottom-up stock because market index hasn't done anything, but a lot of stocks have done so well. Do you see that continuing, or do you think there's a bit of a risk in certain mid-caps now where we have seen so much gains over the last 6 months or so?
No, I would think that the index still may not move a lot because there are still problems in these banks, PSU banks, in commodity companies. I don't think that these things have gone away. If these things were to go away, that means the world is in a very positive state of mind. I don't think that also is the state. So you still have to find within India stocks that you feel that within an Indian context have some, business which is better or sustainable or underpenetrated, or in this case, a technical thing. I think that financing is easily available for such businesses and NBFCs, so they can continue to grow and things like that, and also a little bit lower interest rates. But it's not that the world has totally healed itself and therefore everything has to move up.
Final question then, Raghuram Rajan's term is expiring this year. There's a big debate going on in India. You have one political view saying that he should not be given a second term.
I don't think that is a political view. I think it will be deeply embarrassing for the government if they admit that on these kind of things they will not. It will be a huge negative if they don't
You want
because
him to be given a second term?
He has himself hinted that he's willing by saying that I have not been asked, so I have not decided.
No, but from market's point of view, do you think he needs to get a second term?
Yeah, absolutely, because you got a good guy. Why do you need to search for a potentially good guy when you have got a person who's already delivered and there has been no real negative from any global, local angle from the economy side? There's absolutely no. It'll be a huge negative not only from a stock market, but on how our government, in a sense, is not encouraging talent or promoting talent and doing something not related to the job at hand.
All right, then. Interesting commentary coming in from Samir Arora. But take a look at the Nifty. Now we're down